All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for coming. And thank you to SOSU TV for being here and recording this workshop. I'd like to advance to the next slide. And for the agenda for the day, we're going to be presenting some of the revised goals and the master plan for the master plan text update. And we were looking for input from the public and those that are viewing online, as well as those that are in person here today. We appreciate your time and energy on coming and putting in your feedback on the text itself. And kind of a in-person and also a recording is what we're performing for today, and it'll be recorded and posted on the website in like 3 days, I believe, is what the time frame was. So we'll have the opportunity at in the future to post it or to view this again off of the website, and people will be able to provide public comment at that time as well. There is 2 ways today for those who are virtually to provide comment. One is through the comment section in the YouTube video that's airing live, and then additionally you can use the email at masterplan@douglasnv.us, and you can email those directly to us, and we'll try and answer those questions today, and if not, we'll be getting back to you in the next couple of days with a response. We're going to have a brief presentation. First, I want to thank staff for putting this together. Sam Booth here is our planning manager. Lorenzo Mastino, he's our newest addition to the planning department as our senior planner, and we'd like to welcome him. He's from Southern Nevada. Before that was Arizona, I believe, and then before that, Italy? Yes. Italy. So he's a great addition to the team, and we welcome him. Also, we have Derek from Wood Rogers, who is the consultant that we have hired to assist us in this process and dealing with the workshops and providing a lot of the great graphics you see around the room today. We will have an open house after this presentation, before the next presentation today at 5 p.m. And so we'll be available, staff will be available right after the presentation, and or I think at 1 o'clock, I guess, 1 to 4:30, and then we'll do another presentation tonight at 5. The restrooms, if everybody knows, we're in the community center. The restrooms are just down the hall and to the left, and exit. You have some emergency exits here in the back, and then also out the front of the building. Next slide. I think that was it for the welcoming. So turning the time over to Derek, turn the time over to Derek, and he's going to provide the workshop for our master plan update.
Good afternoon, Derek Kirkland with Wood Rogers. We were hired by Douglas County to assist with the master plan update. And just a couple things before we get started. We were brought in. The message was loud and clear to kind of help pick up where this had left off from the 2016 update, not reinvent the wheel. And so one of the things that we focused on was updating the data collection efforts. And to do that, we worked with the University of Nevada, Reno, who helped us provide a lot of the housing, economic, and population data. And then we also have a sub-consultant, Logan Simpson, who helped us with the goals and policies audit. And there was a survey that was out previously, and I'll get into that in just a minute. So as part of our first task, updating the data, just a couple key findings that we found during that process. One was just looking at the housing stats. A couple things that came to mind was basically that 50% of the housing, just the aging of the housing, was 1989 or older. And so kind of the unique thing there was, as we kind of get into some of the master plan statistics, is just looking at how that impacts the property taxes and economics, and also kind of found that the population, the median age of Douglas County tended to be a little bit older than most of the state, with an average of 49.7 years old. And again, that kind of plays into as the housing. Do you want to take questions? Well, if you could hold questions to the end, once we get through the presentation, we'll go back and take some of that. We'll get you a copy. We have. And so as we talk about the housing stock and the property tax base, and the aging population, something that came into light was really the fact that that's going to impact just the services. As the population ages, the public services tend to increase, and the property values, property tax is starting to decrease. And so that was one of the things that we found as kind of a key finding with the data. And kind of the other important one we found was related to economics, which is really consistent with what we see in a lot of the rural areas in the state of Nevada. But you have a fairly large commute pattern. So, a fair amount of people commute out of Douglas County for work. And you have a fair amount of people from the surrounding areas that come to Douglas County to work. So I think what that tells us is that the regional economy broader than Douglas County is important, because you're transferring people back and forth. And so Douglas County is very much tied to kind of that broader regional economy. And those were just some of the key findings. As we get through the master plan, a lot of this data collection that UNR is doing is going to be put into kind of that initial chapter of the master plan. And so that's one of the things we're working on, is bringing some of this data into that master plan, and kind of putting it into some graphics and doing some different things with that data, so it makes sense and helps tell that story of the master plan. And I think that was a common theme, before I turn it over to Sam, is we're getting through this master plan update. One of the things that we're really looking to do is try to simplify the document, condense a lot of things. One of the messages we heard from the county commission was really there was a lot of redundancy in the previous master plan. And so we're looking at, as I get into the goals and policies, is looking at how we can streamline some of that stuff and make it so that the plan can ultimately be implemented at the end of the day, and everybody understands kind of the direction forward for Douglas County. And that's where really where we're coming into play, is really helping staff kind of sort through the goals, policies, some of the text that was done in 2016, and trying to pare that down a little bit so it's very clear in terms of the direction of Douglas County. And I think our main goal out of this public outreach process is going to be, are we on the right track with the condensed goals? And I'll get into that in just a little bit, but I'm going to turn it over to Sam to talk a little bit about how we got here today.
Okay, thanks, Derek. The next slide we have is a timeline, just recapping the process of the master plan update, and how Douglas County's proceeded through this process. So the beginning of our timeline really starts at 2011. The current master plan that we have in effect today is the 2011 master plan. Typically the master plan is updated every 5 years, and Douglas County's been good about doing that every 5 years since the 96 master plan was updated. In 2016, that was the 5-year update to the 2011 plan. It was started. Staff held 4 community workshops. We had a public survey similar to the one that we have live today. We had over 900 respondents to that public survey. Our public workshops in 2016 were well attended. So there was a lot of feedback that the county staff received and put into a draft and started moving forward with writing an update to that plan in 2016. In 2017, the draft plan was completed, and the Planning Commission ultimately reviewed the plan and did approve the plan. After the Planning Commission heard it in 2017, in the fall of 2017, the Board of Commissioners reviewed the plan, held several public hearings on that, and ultimately, I believe it was in January of 2018, the commissioners asked staff to revise the plan. They said that they weren't comfortable with approving the plan and that they wanted edits and changes to the plan. So that was in 2018. Transition to 2019, and staff went back and discussed with the commissioners the next steps for moving forward and how the plan could be revised, what type of changes they wanted to see. And the direction from the Planning Commission and the Board of County Commissioners at a joint meeting in 2019 was to first start with updating the land use maps for the master plan, and then to move into updating the text and the descriptions, the goals, the policies, those type of things. So in 2019, and ultimately, I believe it was in December of 2019, the county commissioners approved new land use maps as part of the master plan update. So this year, as we've transitioned into closing out this update process, we're looking at the text updates and the goals, the policies, action items, the descriptions for each of the community plan areas, some of the history, the background of the county, those type of things. As Derek said, most of the direction that we've had from the county commissioners, from the planning commission, is that the document's too large, that we want to pare that down to something that the average citizen can pick up and read and would be interested in. And there's many items, many policies, goals that are redundant throughout the plan. And we're just trying to combine some of those, make them clear, so that when you look at those type of things, that you can understand what the intent really is there. So the next slide we have is really just talking about, the format of the master plan. As I've said, currently the master plan has goals. We have policies that further those goals. And then beyond that, we have action items in order to direct the Planning Commission, staff, and the Board of County Commissioners on tangible items that they can achieve moving forward in the next 5 years before the next update. So as we're moving forward, like I said, we want to clarify those goals and policies for redundancy. We're asking the Planning Commission and the Board of Commissioners, are these goals that are still effective today, that are still meeting the County Commission and the Planning Commission's desires for the county? And we're asking for your input and feedback on those goals. So the master plan itself is organized by elements. Essentially, they're chapters. And the direction that we've had from 2 joint meetings of the Planning Commission and the Board of County Commissioners is that we're going to combine several elements of the master plan to pare those down to have, in order to have less chapters or less elements of the plan. So the format that we've decided on is that we will have a land use and historic preservation element, an agriculture and conservation element, an economic development element, a growth management and housing element, a public facilities, services, and recreation element, and finally, a public safety element. In addition to those, or included in these elements, we've got a Washoe Tribe section. We do have our transportation plan, which was approved by the County Commission in 2019, which will be included in this document. We'll have an executive summary. We'll have a county profile, statistics about the county, those type of things. Derek can probably talk about, now that we've decided on that format of the master plan, our next steps in trying to refine those goals and policies.
So as I mentioned, we had a sub-consultant that was helping us with the goals and policies audit, Logan Simpson. And so one of the key things that we did was we put out a survey that went out to Board of County Commissioners, Planning Commissions, staff within Douglas County. It was also made available to the public. And we had over 30 peer reviews. And it was a pretty extensive survey in terms of people going through the goals, the policies, and giving us feedback mainly on, do you like this policy? Should it be kept? Should it be refined? Should it be dropped? And of those 84% of the policies were identified to be kept, but there was 16% that basically needed to be refined or didn't make sense to keep any longer. And so as a starting point, where we're at today, and you'll see on the boards that are around the room and that are made available as part of this presentation, we had started with 53 goals in the previous master plan, and then we're down to about 24 goals. And so a lot of that was duplication. So we looked at goals that were duplicative. We looked at goals that should become policies. We looked at a lot of different things, and we really wanted to create goals that made sense, kind of captured what we felt through this process were the community's priorities. And that helps having the goals not be repetitive and having them be very straightforward and limited to about 5 goals per element helps staff in terms of understanding the direction. Helps staff. It helps the county commission, planning commission, the public. It helps everyone understand what the ultimate goal is for each of the elements of the master plan and ultimately where Douglas County is heading over the next 20 years. And so we got a lot of good information, and where we're at today is doing something similar with the policies that we did with the goals. At 206 existing policies, there's a lot more policies to go through, so we're focusing the public's effort, just giving time on the goals and trying to help us kind of figure out those goals, and eventually we'll be organizing the policies and ultimately the actions underneath each of those goals. And so that when you see a draft master plan come out, you'll see the policies organized under the goals, and hopefully we get some good feedback from the public on those goals, and we'll be able to kind of give us a direction forward there. Next slide. So going through the elements, what each of these boards represents is basically the goals that were derived from the goals and policy audit that I was discussing, and also we've worked with staff on some updated maps. But really, these you'll see with the land use and historic preservation is these 3 goals encompass comments that we received through that audit, but also encompasses comments that we've heard throughout the process, and then also if there was 2 or 3 existing goals that were saying similar things, we combined them into a single goal and made it more clear in terms of the direction that goal was implying. Next slide. And as you'll see, kind of the common theme here, so agriculture and conservation, we ended up with 5 goals there. But you'll notice that a lot of these are very simple, they're easy to read, and they get to the point in terms of what we're trying to achieve with this element of the master plan. Obviously, with Douglas County, agriculture and conservation is a key component. And so we really spent a lot of time there just kind of figuring out, what ultimately are we trying to do with the goals here in terms of protecting that open space, protecting that agricultural land. Next slide. Economic development, we ended up with 4 goals. These were, really based around kind of some of the stuff that we found when we did the data collection, the regional economy. Obviously, there's still a lot of jobs here, but you do have large commute patterns. So staying connected to that regional economy and creating new ways to improve our economic development is kind of what these goals were fostered around. And again, we've gone through and updated the maps, and you'll have a chance to, whether you're online viewing this, to spend some time with the boards, or if you're here in person, there's a lot of ways to comment on these goals. If we've missed something, if you feel there's something important that we should be adding or considering, please tell us. So this is kind of your chance to look at these goals and make sure we've got the goals right. So as we get into the policies, we can make sure we get those policies to fall within those goals. Slide, please. So moving on to the growth management and housing element, we had five goals there. Again, just looking at growth and with agriculture and open space and recreation being so important to Douglas County, is looking at how how the existing goals were written and how we could refine those to carry that forward, and just looking at kind of the housing and how all that fit together. And so, again, updated map, and you'll see those goals there, and please give us your feedback as you read through those. Public facilities and services and recreation. So this was a kind of a accumulation of a few elements that came together, but all closely related. And that by bringing those together allowed us to remove some of the duplication where you had goals that were essentially saying the same thing in different elements of the previous master plan. Allowed us to tie them together and kind of reduce that duplication, but all these are very closely related within this element. And so, take a look through there, but again, I think this captures a lot of what was in the previous goals. And then moving on to public safety, we ended up with 2 goals for this one. Public safety was one of the elements that we found a lot of duplication. It was a lot of things that were saying similar things. And so we really tried to create 2 very important goals. Those goals being, more of protecting the natural, protecting the community from the natural hazards, but then also making sure that public health, safety, and welfare through adequate professional law enforcement, fire protection, and emergency medical services was also there, and one of the important elements, or one of the important goals that we want to make sure that we captured. So take a look through there, and there was a few maps as part of that element that were updated that we have out and are available online as well. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Sam, and he can talk a little bit about some of the map updates and kind of where we're headed.
Okay. So Derek talked about each of the land use, or each of the elements of the master plan. One thing that I might circle back to talk about was, as part of each of those elements, the first one that he talked about was the land use element. An important piece of the land use element are the community plans that relate to each of the community plan areas in the county. And so while they're not included in the public survey that we have out today, and not part of our presentation, we will be updating the community plans. What Logan Simpson and Wood Rogers are doing right now is trying to get the goals analyzed, as he talked about, and to get some consensus on those goals. Moving forward with the community plans, we want the policies within each community plan to match an overreaching land use goal. And so we're going to be reviewing the policies of each community plan. Many of those communities have their own unique situations, needs, concerns, whether it's Gardnerville Ranchos or Topaz Ranch Estates or Indian Hills. So they're going to have their own unique policies. What we're also looking at creating for each of the community plans is a vision statement, something that's maybe 2 to 3 sentences long that just describes that community plan in a short and succinct vision statement. Beyond that, of course, we have a description of the area, some background information, some historical information on how that area has developed, those type of things. But then we'll have policies and action items that will talk about how we can achieve the items that are important to that community and that the commissioners and planning commissioners see are important to that community. So moving forward, that'll be an important piece of this. As Derek said, we also have other maps that are not shown on these boards that will be updated throughout the master plan update. Of course, as I talked about earlier, and on the screen now, we have our updated land use map that was approved in 2019. This is on one of the boards, so you can take a look at it and see it in much better clarity. If you're at home, we'll have this posted online as well, this version of the map, and you'll be able to zoom in to different areas of the county. I believe another map we're working to update is the community plan areas and the floodplains. Really, I think the next thing we want to move into talking about are the next steps in the master plan update process. And first thing to point out is that we have our public survey is live now, has been since September 1st, and will run through the end of the month. Please log on. It is, I believe it's woodpolls.douglas.us. We have a survey card at the front of the room, so please grab that. We have the survey link on our website as well. A draft text of the plan we hope to have available for review by the public by October 12th. So after the public workshops this week, Logan Simpson and the county staff are going to be working hard to get a first draft of the plan together and available for public review. The first Planning Commission hearings for approval and review of the plan are going to be October 20th and 21st, with a follow-up hearing on November 4th. So the feedback that we get from the Planning Commission in those first couple of meetings may require some revisions to the draft plan, and we anticipate needing a week or so to do that and coming back to meet with them on November 4th. Then after that Planning Commission meeting on the 4th, we're going to make the draft copy of the master plan that the Planning Commission has hopefully approved at that point available for public review and for comments for just over 30 days. And so that'll be essentially from November 5th to December 4th, where the plan will be posted on our website. We'll have that available at community development at our offices, and would ask for any comments or input you would have based on the Planning Commission's document that they've hopefully approved. So finally, we'd move into the Board of County Commissioners holding public hearings. Those would be in December. We're anticipating the possibility of needing 3 days for the county commissioners to hear these items, and those would be December 9th, 10th, and 11th if needed. Okay, thanks guys. So the survey, is douglas.woodpolls.com, just to clarify that. That's essentially our presentation and what we had to talk to you about. Again, as I said, we have boards around the room that you can see in much better clarity. You can take a look at the goals there. We're asking for feedback on each of those boards, and we have comment cards at the front of the room that we would ask anybody in the room to, if you have a comment, a question, concern about any of the goals or an items on the board, grab a comment card for that and fill that out. And leave it for us. And those of you at home can also do that as well by either sending us input just live on YouTube in the comments section or sending input to masterplan@douglasnv.us. That's our designated email address for the master plan update. So with that being said, we're ready to open up for just questions that anybody has and questions that anybody at home may also have. So we'll be monitoring the YouTube chat. Again, if you have any questions for staff, we'll take a look at those comments made there and answer some questions as we can, and do that. Anybody that has any questions in the room as well. Okay. Okay, all right, thanks. Anybody have any questions? You want to help me out?
Hi, Ellen Waller for the record. It was mentioned that property taxes are decreasing. People sometimes lease homes and stay in them. I understand it's an economic issue, but people live in different places than they were, as I did before moving here. Sometimes you can't always live metric tied to that as an action, and I don't know how many actions are going to be incorporated into the final documentation. Redundancy is one thing, but streamlining too much, like keywords, shall and must, needs to remain for clarity of interpretation. The devil sometimes is in the details, and I think we might have gone a little too far with truncating a policy. Maybe it will be better or well stated when we get more actions. Thank you.
So I can start, I think I can start on that. I can start, Ellie. This is Sam Booth. Maybe working backwards there. So as far as the goals and the policies, understand what you're saying, and there are still things that we think we can work through. So let's take that, I think that goal you said there to improve air quality. In the existing draft 2016 master plan, there's a goal similar to that, says to improve air quality. And in the issue we have, we do have currently in the draft plan several policies under that goal that get much more descriptive. I think the goal was more long-winded than just to improve air quality, and we shortened it down to make it just one clean idea, so you know what that means. But just for instance, I know there's, and what we're trying to do is, as we move forward with the policies, cleaning those up and clarifying or getting clarification from the Planning Commission and the board, which they agree with and which they don't agree with. And so that was the reason that we started this whole process, giving the county commissioners and the planning commissioners an audit of all the goals and policies and asking them to tell us whether they agreed with them or disagreed, and moving on from there so that we could see. And that was what Derek showed earlier, that for the most part they agreed with most of those, but they asked us to refine a good portion of them. I think 17 or 20. 60% total? 16%. Okay, yeah, I was closer there. 16% to be refined. And so that gives us the ability to cue in on those to work to refine them. So for instance, if I can just remember off the top of my head, and we can look further into that draft element on the environment. But it said improve air quality. One talked about reducing wood burning stoves in homes and replacing them with updated models. There's a policy for that. It's very descriptive. That's very intrusive, and I think some commissioners feel like into telling citizens what they can and can't do. But there's other policies that further that goal. So right now it does seem like that it's a very general statement, but we're trying to keep the goals very high level, and you'll have policies and action items that fall under those. To talk just a little bit further, I guess the first part of your question. And I don't know if maybe it was more of a statement, but understand what you're saying about the commuting, about the housing, those type of things. I think the data that UNR has put together and with Wood Rogers is really just trying to show us the picture. We talk about, the Planning Commission and the board talks about often transportation and the increase in traffic in the county, the need for improvement of intersections and those type of things. And so we're trying to dive in to say what's happening here, why are we seeing that? And part of the data that they're showing us is just the cross commute of people who are leaving Douglas County for jobs, or people who live outside of Douglas County commuting into the county for jobs. And you're right that can be multiple reasons. Maybe it's an issue that the country is seeing. Or region-wide. It's not just a Douglas County thing, but at least now we know, some part of a description for why people are on the roads and doing that. Housing is another topic. I think that's just an important piece to inform the commissioners that we have an aging housing stock. The way Nevada's property taxes are set up, newer homes bring in more property tax for the county, and as those homes degrade over time, the assessed value decreases. Again, it's just pointing out that issue out as a topic for conversation, and just seeing what the data says about it.
Jim Slade.
Hey, Lorenzo.
I'll ask my question first because I might forget it at the end. The question is, who exactly has changed these policies? Is it community development? Is it
start with that?
It's quite clear to me that these policies, these goals, have been changed in favor of more development, which is not what the public wants. You probably noticed that Commissioner Walsh, a longtime resident, and planning commissioner and county commissioner and incumbent, lost by 20 percentage points to a political newcomer who moved to the past 3 years ago from California. That's because he was too pro-development. I would say, I think everyone would agree. So, the current goal, number one, for growth management, is to accommodate residential growth to a level that the natural and fiscal resources can support, period. You guys added, and that our businesses need to flourish. That is a pro-development statement. Somebody changed that, I want to know who, and why.
Okay, I think,
I'm not done. Moving on to the land use. The current goal number one in the land use plan, which myself and most members of the community can agree with, is in there, it's been in there since 1996. To maintain a land use plan that manages growth at a sustainable rate to maintain the treasured qualities of the county. You all agree with that. But you've decided to change it. You now say, implement the master plan and land use and associate community plans to achieve the desired land use pattern and balance between preservation and development in the county. That is a more pro-development stance. I want to know who put that in and why. Because the people made it very clear when our master plan was adopted that the thing they wanted most was to retain our rural character. We have had excessive growth over recent decades. We've had excessive approvals in recent years, including the 2,500 home giveaway of the Park Ranch cattle, Park Ranch Holdings development out in agricultural land beyond the town boundary, beyond the urban service areas, which were both expanded only to accommodate farm. So there has been so we don't need any more balance. We have over 7,000 homes that can be built without any further approvals. We don't need a balance at this point between preservation and development. We've had too much development in recent decades and approvals in recent years. We now need to go back more toward the preservation, which is what the people of Douglas County want in order to preserve the rural character. So the question again was, who made the changes? Exactly. And why? Because it's not what the public wants.
so Jim, are you start? Okay, okay. So,
From the 2016 update, proposed updated from their study. So this is brand new by this group in the last year.
okay. So, Jim said that the goal he's reading is from the 2011 master plan. That's our current adoptive and effective master plan. But as part of this master plan update, the direction we received at several joint meetings from the county commissioners and the planning commission was to use the 2016 master plan as a draft to start from. The planning commission had approved that draft, so we're starting from that draft. So we have copies of some of the elements. We can talk to you. We do have them posted on our website. On the Douglas County website, you can go to 2016 draft chapters to see those. But I would urge you to look at those to see goal number 1, goal number 2, because those are what we started, what Logan Simpson and Wood Rogers started in examining how to move forward to rewrite those goals. So understand that there are some different goals in there, but it's because we're starting from the 2016 versus the 2011 document. That being said, Derek can describe a little bit further how they've analyzed these and how Logan Simpson has analyzed these.
Good afternoon, Derek Kirkland, Wood Rogers. And so as we got through a lot of these goals, we didn't create new goals. We basically took goals that were in the 2016 plan and merged them together, so to speak, based on that audit that we received over 30 plus responses on. So there's a lot of thought that went into a lot of these goals. Now, we're not saying we got them right now, and that's why we're here, is to make sure we get the goals right. And so this is where the public's coming in, and you do have this opportunity to provide input, and your comment could easily, you could say that I wanted to go back to 2011. It could be a valid comment. And then once we're done with this, we're going to organize, once we get the public feedback, we're going to take the public feedback, work with staff, and we'll be going back through these goals and seeing where we need to make changes before those policies are organized underneath those goals. And ultimately, this is going to go back to Planning Commission for review. It's going to go back to the Board of County Commission for review and approval. So there's a lot of steps left over the next few months to provide that input on those. And so it's just a starting point to refining, but it's not the end all be all. These are it.
Update, because it seems like just a cursory view of census data suggests that there's quite a bit of property tax revenue that come from that area, and a number of large employers. So I'm just wondering if that's an oversight that might be addressed.
Thank you for the question. I think demographics-wise, some of our county profile statistics information includes the data from Tahoe, but most of the plan itself is not speaking to Tahoe. There's a couple reasons for that. The main reason is that the county does have two separate plans for the Tahoe region, the Tahoe-Douglas area plan and the South Shore area plan, just talking about the South Shore, basically the downtown casino corridor area. That's because the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency has jurisdiction over Douglas County in the basin, and as part of the regional pact, TRPA encourages the counties to adopt area plans. They're a little bit different format than the master plan that the county has. The Tahoe Douglas area plan and the South Shore area plan have both been in a draft mode for the last few years, and we're working hard to bring those forward to get final approval on an update. The existing version, I believe, is a 2013 version of the South Shore area plan and the Tahoe Douglas plan. So both of those plans need updated. So for the most part, they are separate process from this master plan update. However, we've had discussions internally and with the Planning Commission about trying to include more data and more information in our plan that still speaks to Tahoe. It helps us in many different ways. Obviously, the first being just informing the Planning Commission, informing the Board of Commissioners about things like property taxes or the residents or the school numbers, those type of things in that area of the county. But additionally, one of the purposes of a master plan is for planning, other planning documents that are related to it. Things like if the county wants to seek grants for funding, you want to be able to say that we examined those areas. So if it's looking at the school district itself or the need for a new school, other things like that, you want to include that data in the master plan, and we're going to try to make an effort to include more of it here. But the actual land use planning maps and those type of things are within the Tahoe Douglas area plan and the South Shore plan. Thanks.
Some of the things I need to put in writing in addition to what I've already commented on. I'm looking at your what's next tentative dates. I'm glad it says tentative. I'm not, again, I've been to meetings, I know how the schedule was approved. I want to be on record to state and have stated in the past
reaching growth management policy number 1 from May 2017 from the master plan update. To keep growth in Douglas County to a sustainable level that natural and fiscal resources can support, period. There is nothing about there, the pro-development statement that says that, and that our businesses need to flourish. So that's a fabrication on your part. This again, May 2017, you guys have changed it completely to make more pro-development, to retain the beauty, the natural settings and resources, and the rural agricultural character of the county, while providing opportunities for managed growth and development. So we have changed that to, having a balance of preservation and development, which is not what was expressed as the desire of residents in 1996 or ever since then, or in the primary election earlier this year. So, saying that you have taken those goals from the 2016-17 update is false. That is regular there. You should know that.
And that, Jim, that's from the growth management?
And the new thing is you added a pro-development aspect to it. And you completely changed the one on land use. It's vaguely similar, except it doesn't talk about retaining the beauty, natural setting, resources, and rural agricultural character. That's the first one of the goal, as it was stated in May 2017. So you have changed both of them to be clearly more pro-development. And that is, it may be what 3 commissioners want, and maybe what some of the planning commissioners want that were appointed by those 3 commissioners. But I promise you that this is not what the residents of this county, and it is not what the majority of commissioners want that will be seated in January. And we know that that's why you're trying to plan this thing for this year, because you know that the board is changing. And so you have changed it to reflect the desires of 3 commissioners. And that is a disservice to this community.
That staff is not setting the timeline for this plan. That's the direction we've received from the Planning Commission and the board. And that staff is not trying to make any pro-development or anti-development suggestions with these goals. Really what we're trying to do here is an editing exercise to the 2016 master plan. So if the effect is that some goal reads more pro-development than another, give us that comment. We'll take it to the county commissioners and to the planning commission and ask their opinion on it. Understand, we're trying, one of these boards that you can see with proposed goals is combining the growth management element and the housing element. So there can be some competing interests there. Without having that in front of me, but we did bring, for anyone that's interested in it, the 2016 draft plan. Of course, the growth management element is going to have goals that are more discussing, managed growth and development. The housing element has discussions on housing that is needed. And as we're moving those into one element, you're going to have goals that speak to each of those 2 things. It's not anything that staff is trying to do, or that I would think Wood Rogers or Logan Simpson are trying to do. It's trying to edit the plan down and the number of goals that we have and the long-windedness of many of the goals that we have.
The town, the town Advisory Board has created an ad hoc recommendations from the ad hoc committee will be incorporated into this process to do.
I can. Thank you, Mr. County staff to include in our review of the master plan as we move forward. You know, as far as you look at the tentative dates, the draft text is going to be available October 12th. So if there's any input like that from different community areas or community plans, of course, on these goals, policies, other type of things, we would hope to have that before we have the draft available on October 12th. So in the next month is when it would be essential for us to get those recommendations. However, if it happens after that time, we still have some time before the County Planning Commission is going to hear the draft. And so those could be comments that are submitted to the Planning Commission in their review. And the Planning Commission, as I said, will have a first two hearings. Even if it was something that was received before the final hearing on November 4th of the Planning Commission, we could still incorporate it in the document. And again, we'll have 30 days after the Planning Commission before the commissioners. So if there was some information coming in late from a community that wasn't able to meet or just took longer to get some suggestions approved to us, of course, we would note that. That's public comment that could be submitted to the commissioners. And we could say, listen, as we presented to the Planning Commission, this wasn't information that we had. Here's updated information, and we can present that to the commissioners, you know, as late as December if needed. My hope would be if we could get it, you know, in the next 30 days to 45 days before that October 12th deadline.
We're hoping the October town board, and then we go to you, I believe.
And I think the town board usually meets about the
Vague and nebulous. Perhaps you can enlighten me on question number 9. Goal number 2 is refers to creation of a place. What does that mean?
is from which section there?
In your survey, question number 9, economic development.
Okay, economic development. Creating a sense of place as it relates to economic development is really the sense and feel of a community, and what is the uniqueness about the community that's going to interest people, both that want to live and grow up there, or people that want to come recreate in that community or come start a business in that community, those type of things. What's interesting and unique about your community? You're creating a unique sense of place. I think to the Carson Valley, that's our agricultural heritage, the ranching community, that's the recreation and that certain type of lifestyle that we can have. Those type of things is creating a sense of place.
Okay, on your question 11, growth management and housing, you also refer to sense of community. I assume that's somewhat similar to the definition you just gave.
Okay, yes, same thing in growth
Okay,
management.
question 13, land use and historic preservation. It says goal 1 to implement community plans to achieve a balance between preservation and development. You've gone into that. And then on goal number 3, or goal number 2, it says economic development strategy. Could you expand on that?
Do you know what that's speaking to? So economic development strategy would be coming from our economic vitality manager, Lisa Granahan. Just the county as a whole is what is their economic goals and what the county's trying to achieve. That's the economic strategy, both for employers, employees, those type of things. The first part of that element.
It was goal number economic development strategy.
Yes, yes.
And I'm trying to envision what you're trying to communicate here. What is that strategy?
Okay. So I believe so I can't speak exactly to how that was crafted, but to me, locating industrial and commercial uses in areas that further the county's economic development strategy, those would be things, for instance, talking about the airport and the airport community plan, in the industry that we have related to the airport and the uses that are surrounding the airport. So other like uses or like businesses should be located in that region around the airport, adjacent to that, rather than in an agricultural area or in a residential area, those type of things. So we want those uses to further the economic development that we have currently in the county. Or there may be other strategic areas that the county has identified for that. But I think essentially, when you're talking about commercial and industrial development, they're unique areas and you want to make sure it's the right location for those uses.
Would that include revenue enhancement? It says preserve and promote historic structures. Now, Genoa has a number of historic structures. And we have some spot zoning regarding the Genoa Historic District Commission jurisdiction, and it's kind of a real mess over there right now. So I'm trying to envision what we're talking about here to what historic structures, in other words, are we talking about?
Mr. Brooks? A map of historic structures. I think as part of that map, and we may even have it on one of our boards here, identifying historic structures throughout the county. And then of course the boundary of the Genoa Historic District, and then there are other structures scattered about the county, many of them in downtown Minden and Gardnerville. I think that goal, talking about preserving historic structures, is just being there to further the point that we need to look past that. And so you would have policies that would further that goal, directing the Planning Commission, staff, the county commissioners to look at ways to preserve historic structures. Whether that's expanding historic districts. I think there had been some suggestions in the draft plan about doing that, about Minden and Gardnerville creating historic districts, certifying with the state different areas as historic districts or buildings, those type of things. Any grants that the county could seek to preserve historic structures or assist property owners, those type of things. If you're able to point back to the master plan and say, okay, we have a goal that states that we should do this, then you can focus your efforts on that.
We have a situation. As to what he should do with his property, but the county's been very efficient in providing the economic resources for that property owner to carry out those suggested changes. And lastly, additional land use goals and changes to the historic, above historic goals.
Which one is that from, Bill?
Requesting 14 additional land use goals for changes. Public facilities services. Goal number 2, it says maintain service delivery standards. I'm trying to envision what we're talking about.
So that goal, sanitation, things like that. And we had several policies that talk to those same type of things. So we combine those together instead of calling them out individually. What we're saying is maintain delivery services that the county provides. We want to provide high quality services and reach the values and promote a high quality of life by doing so. But
Yeah, in addition, add on to that is, need to respond to an incident in a certain amount of time, and those are the standards that they have adopted and developed over the past 10 years, and we want to include those in the plan. And it's something that they review during some project review process, that they will analyze on their end those standards to make sure that they can respond to the proposed development or to whatever reviews that we've done in that area, that they are able to respond to those incidents that happen.
You know, I think staff is doing a decent job on trying to solicit responses to your survey. You know, it's in the newspaper, it's online,
Mhm.
it's easy to see. I hope a lot of people will fill it out. I have my doubts. It's always hard to get participation in things like that. I would be interested to know how many people, now that we're almost a third of the way through the month, how many people have filled it out. I will say though that these meeting presentations, I was online yesterday looking to double check on the times, and yes, I eventually discovered how to find those things, but it's not easy or intuitive or clear, so I don't know what you can do to improve that.
Mhm.
I will tell you that there was massive amounts of public input for the 1996 master plan, and it was great, massive amounts over long periods of time. Public meetings in all the different communities, repeated public meetings, a lot of input, and because it was new, it was a new master plan that was created. I'm sure you won't get the same input now, and it's very unfortunate that the COVID makes it more challenging.
Mhm. Mhm.
But if we had more time and a little bit more money, I still think it would be good to, somebody suggested this at the Regional Planning Commission meeting yesterday, to go to the different communities, which, you know, people just aren't traveling that much.
Yeah.
I mean, given, it's always disappointing to me how many, this is an important thing to do.
Mhm.
We appreciate what you're doing. But we have 5 people here, we're outnumbered by staff and TV crew.
Mhm.
That's very disappointing to me, and I'm sure it is to you as well.
Mhm. Yeah.
Because you want to talk. I think that, I know that there was a desire by some commissioners, I don't know if that's where it came from, to simplify the master plan. I mean, a certain amount of simplification is good, perhaps. But when you start combining different elements that have different objectives, I think it often weakens plans. You know, combining growth management with housing, maybe there's a small amount of synergies there, but to a certain degree, they have different approaches and outlooks. And I worry about that. I mean, and then you can't necessarily give them equal weight, in my mind. Because in the 1996 master plan, the public made it very clear, the number one priority came on rural character. So if one of the many goals of the housing element is to provide more affordable housing, you know, in my opinion, that has to be within the limitations of retaining our rural character. We shouldn't necessarily give those two things equal weight. That's like saying, well, we're going to give equal time and equal weight to the people who believe in climate change and those who don't. Well, 99% of scientists say that there's climate change is caused by humans, and the less than 1% that disagree, they don't deserve equal weight over the 99% that do. So, you know, the people have spoken in the past, they've spoken at the ballot box this year, they still want the majority, I would say the vast majority of residents of Douglas County still would retaining our rural character at the top of the overarching goals of the master plan. And that needs to be reflected, not just given equal weight to, oh, well, yeah, we need some government. And we need, what we really want to preserve our rural character, but it doesn't even deserve equal weight. So, maybe I'm not speaking
Okay.
really clearly enough. I'm away from my hands and not too much. So thank you for the reminder. So let's see, where was I? You know, this is the overarching document for our county. It should deal in broad principles, and it should be primarily, and I would hope that you would agree with this, a reflection of the will of the residents of Douglas County. And it should never be a reflection of the desires of 3 of the 5 county commissioners this year, as opposed to 3 of the 5 county commissioners next year. Now, that is not what this is supposed to be. This is supposed to be the overarching principles that will govern our county for 5 or 10 or 20 more years. And I think in the 1996 master plan, and all the previous updates have done that. I think this year, from what I've seen so far, and I've only looked through parts of it and some of it just here today for the first time, they have turned it to a more pro-development thing, which is not what the people of Douglas County want. So I hope that when all is said and done, that it will reflect the overarching will of the population of Douglas County as a whole, not the desires of community development, not the desires of 3 of the 5 commissioners, but the desires of the public. I think you want that too. I'm not seeing that so far, and I hope that's going to be addressed.
Myself, and I'm sure Wood Rogers as well, we want a plan that we can bring forward to the Planning Commission and the commissioners that will have the support of most of the county. You know, the overarching goals of the county. We want that to be the case. What we're trying to do with this master plan update is a refresher on the 2016 plan. That plan had a lot of input. You know, if we go back to how we started the presentation, the Planning Commission approved it. What we were asked to do was just to update the plan, refresh some goals, policies, information, historical data that's within the plan, and bring it forward for the commissioners and the Planning Commission to review again. What we are not trying to do with this update are any extensive changes to the ideas that were put into the 2016 draft plan. So that's not our goal. Ellie, I think we're kind of past our time here, but okay, sure. And then we're still going to remain open for an open house this afternoon and for the next few hours and everything. Sure.
Board of Commissioners and hearings, the current structure of allowing us 3 minutes at the beginning and 3 minutes at the end is not going to be a sufficient way to handle those meetings. I know we're going to I'll provide 100 pages if I have to. And that's just the way it's going to have to be for us community members that do participate, do read the documentation. But the structures of those meetings now are inefficient for us to be heard properly. I understand we turn in. I don't turn in 100 pages of comments. Who's going to read them? They will be a matter of record, and it's just sad that that's the way it has to be. I don't know if we can structure those special meetings, if we have to call them that, so we can have a better way to have a dialogue with the commission, both planning and board.
Okay. First of all, Ellie, I hope to say about the format. You know, staff doesn't have any input on the format for the meetings for the most part. Did we have any further questions there?
Any others? No, I don't think so.
Okay. With that, I think we're going to wrap up this first presentation of the day. We've got the boards around the room that we've described. You can see those much more clearly, and we can ask or answer any questions you've got as the open house period continues throughout the day. Thank you, and thank you for anybody joining us online. Tom?
So, Staff's going to be available to answer questions at the board. And we'll try and answer all your questions that you have regarding that particular board. So it's just going to be open to the public to come in and review this, ask questions from us, and we'll be here to answer those questions. If they have a question online, you can still email. Is it Douglas? There we go. Thank you. That's www.douglas.woodpoles.com. And that's the public survey we have on all the goals that are being proposed at this time. So with that, we thank you all for coming. We thank you for your input, and we look forward to coming up with a final version of this. Thank you.